Descriptive writing, by its nature, appeals to the senses and awakens the imagination. It beckons you to conjure up detailed mental images, stimulating your senses to do its bidding. Descriptive writing is an art form. You are using words to create mental pictures. The purpose of writing descriptively is to allow your reader to visualize or vividly imagine the thing being described. When we describe, we use words to show rather than tell. Compare these two descriptions of a young woman. She was tall and thin. She wore a simple black dress, and her black hair was pulled back into a bun. She looked around the room with a confidence few people have. She was beautiful. Elegantly statuesque, she stood tall. She was exquisitely attired in a tasteful black dress that just seemed to float away from her slender form. Her midnight tresses had been smoothed back into a classic bun. Few have attained her level of confidence. She was beautiful. The second description evokes more detail rather than being a straightforward description, almost like a work of art. This is where you get a chance to show off your sophisticated language skills. Look at this next example. I was disappointed to see the home of my childhood. It was old and run down. The paint was peeling and had discolored with age. Some of the wooden steps had caved in. I used to spend hours on those steps, which brought back another memory to mind, which I now fear would be destroyed forever. My eyes searched frantically for the spot where with his very own hands Dad had made me a swing which he carefully attached to the mango tree. It was gone. The disappointment I felt upon seeing my childhood home was indescribable. It had been reduced to a rather derelict condition, with the paint, discolored with age, disassociating itself from the wall it once dearly clung to. The wooden steps had given up the ghost and caved in with despair. I feared that the memories of hours spent on those very steps had also succumbed to the pressure of time and were forever demolished. My eyes danced frantically as they searched for the spot where my father lovingly created for me a swing which he attached to our mango tree with careful precision. It, too, was no more. Notice how much stronger the disappointment seems in the second paragraph, though they both communicate the same basic information. Here's how we do this. Appeal to the senses. Remember, there are 5 senses, not just 2 or 3, so we want to create several different types of imagery that will appeal to the different senses. The first and most obvious one is visual, appeal to sight. When trying to create visual appeal, focus on things that would strike the eye, color, pattern, interesting sights, and then describe them in a unique way. A good idea is to try to compare what you are describing with something else. That's right, this is a good opportunity to use up your similes and your metaphors. Let's say you wanted to refine the description of the paint on the wall in our model paragraph. You could say, the paint, once the color of the beautiful morning glory blossom, was peeling and had discolored with age. Tactile, appeal to touch. How does something feel? Is it gritty, prickly, abrasive, chapped? What could you compare it to make your reader more keenly aware of what it feels like? Olfactory, appeal to smell. What type of smell do we want to create? Do we want to unearth the moldy, putrid odor of that dank wooden cottage that's been left abandoned in the mountains? What about the fresh smell of grass wet with dew in the early morning? Oral, appeal to hearing. Shh, listen. I remember waking up in Portland early one morning. I looked outside at the majestic mist-covered mountains that were the deepest shade of opulent green I had ever seen. The air was still as the trees stood quietly in the distance waiting for the day to rise. I made my way outside and sat on a smooth, cold rock a few feet away from my villa. I sat still and I listened, mesmerized by the chorus of these melodic pre-dawn sounds. The courting song of a male cricket whispered in the gentle breeze as a little bird twittered blissfully. The statery appeal to taste. 100% Angus beef and dripping with flame-broiled goodness. Enjoy a full-flavored mouthful of onions, crisp lettuce, ripe tomatoes, and our signature steak sauce on a freshly toasted corn-dusted bun. You like heading to Burger King? This was a description of the Angus steak burger on the BK website. Mouth-watering, huh? Refine your language. We're accustomed to giving vague answers to questions. How was your day? Fine. How was your dinner? Nice. When we write descriptions, we have to try to use clearer, more precise words. Let's take a common word, walk. She walked across the street. If we really wanted to make that sentence communicate something precise about how she walked across the street, we could use strode, which gives us the idea that she is unhurried. Trudged. Maybe she doesn't really want to go where she is heading, or she is having a really bad day. Sauntered. A nice leisurely walk. Plodded. This suggests that maybe she is tired or she is having great difficulty walking. Do you get the picture? There are many other words you could use to create a sharper, clearer picture. Let's look at another common word, sad. He looked sad. We could easily say he looked cheerless, he looked troubled, dejected, doleful, morose, morbid, disconsolate, dismal. All these words may describe the melancholy expression he wore. Adjectives and adverbs become very important when we are trying to describe. Let's look at the descriptive words and phrases which have been used in another of our model paragraphs. As you look, bear in mind the differences between adjectives and adverbs as discussed in our parts of speech lesson. Adjectives describe nouns and pronouns only. They tell us which one, what kind, or how many. Adverbs describe other words, including verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. And they answer the question when, how, where, how many times, or to what extent. Now on to our paragraph. I remember waking up in Portland early one morning. I looked outside at the majestic mist-covered mountains that were the deepest shade of opulent green I had ever seen. The air was still as the trees stood quietly in the distance waiting for the day to rise. I made my way outside and sat on a smooth, cold rock a few feet away from my villa. I sat still and I listened, mesmerized by the chorus of these melodic pre-dawn sounds. The courting song of a male cricket whispered in the gentle breeze as a little bird twittered blissfully. Early. Early is an adverb which refers to the degree of time. It modifies or tells us more about the morning by making the time of the morning more specific. Majestic is an adjective which describes the noun mountains. The word majestic gives us an impression of the mountain's size. It's imposing. It also suggests something of its beauty. That is, this is not an ordinary sight. Mist-covered is also an adjective which is used to describe mountains. It goes on to further create this visual image of the mountain as being kind of foggy. Deepest is an adjective used to compare. This adjective is in the superlative. It is used to describe the shade of green. The idea is that of all the shades, it is the most extreme, And of course, opulent also modifies green. It gives us the idea that there is a lot of this green. It is abundantly present. Opulent also means rich and luxurious, which connects very nicely with the idea of these majestic mountains. Still, as in the air was still, is used as an adjective to describe the air as free from sounds, noise, and movement. Still, as in I sat still, is used as an adverb. It modifies the word sat, answering the question, how did I sit? Quietly is an adverb, which is used to modify the word stood. It answers the question, how did I stand? Quietly. Quietly emphasizes the stillness of the trees. There is no swaying of the branches or rustling of the leaves, so the trees are quiet. Smooth and cold are both adjectives which describe rock. They tell us about the rock's texture and the way it feels against her skin, thus adding tactile imagery. I am sure you get the picture. Look at the other descriptive words highlighted. Can you tell whether they are adverbs or adjectives? Why don't you try completing the paragraph on your own? Like all pieces of writing, you must be careful to organize the descriptive essay. Is there a main or dominant idea that you want to concentrate on in a paragraph? Introduce it with your topic sentence and commit the rest of the paragraph to filling in the supporting details. Our model paragraph, for example, focuses on describing the speaker's enjoyment of the early morning Portland scene. What type of order are you using? The most common type of paragraph order to use with description is spatial order, where you describe things based on where they are in relation to each other. To the left, immediately behind me, etc. But you can also describe things using order of importance as well. Ask yourself, what things in the scene are most deserving of my attention, and describe them in that order. Don't forget, you can also describe things in the order in which they are experienced. That way, you can also use chronological order. Is my purpose for writing clear? Have I responded to what I have been asked? Don't write a description of a fire in progress if you are asked to describe the scene after the fire, for example. Once you have written your essay, it is always important that you revise it to make sure it makes the grade. Go through your essay with the following questions in mind. Have I used sufficient details to give my readers a clear picture of what I have described? Have I left out any minor but significant details? Have I included unnecessary details? Does each paragraph concentrate on one aspect of my description? Have I organized the paragraphs effectively? Is my language clear and free from error? Is my purpose for writing clear? Have I responded to what I have been asked? There is an old Chinese proverb that says, I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. Because I am sure you don't want to forget, I urge you, like Nike, to just do it. Write those descriptive essays. I am Fiona Porter Lawson.